Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mio Anime podcast. A day late, but hopefully still valuable to your betting needs, as well as your prediction needs, your enjoyment needs, whatever you're getting out of this podcast. I hope it still works. I am going to try and see about getting these done on like Wednesday instead of my usual Thursday schedule. It's just not working out. I've been late a couple of times, but here we are. I'm also trying a bit of a new look for the recording here. I've got the muffle box back in play. Hopefully that works. I paid money for it. Hopefully it works. And hopefully that increases the quality. Although, unfortunately, the problem has been is that I think something is happening with the Spotify conversion rates. So if you're watching on Spotify, or listening on Spotify, I should say, you're probably getting a worse experience than elsewhere, which up to you what you want to do with that. I still like the Spotify viewership, whatever, but there is a problem with getting it uploaded properly. Unfortunately, they recommend changing audio formats. I tried that and it ends up just being too huge of a file. And then you got to convert it. And then it ends up being worse. So I don't know what to do. Anyways, trying to do some different things. We are talking about the UFC Paris card, Benoit Saint Denis versus Money Moicano in the main event. A lot of French fighters on the card, of course, with Benoit Saint Denis, Nassourdine Imavov, William Gomes, Kevin Jousset, Morgan Charrier, Faris Siam, Omar Sy. I'm not really sure what to deal with the Ludwig Klein Roosevelt Roberts fight. That's a little bit weird. Taylor Lapilus also on the card. Technically, I guess Daria Zheleznikova is technically a French fighter by virtue of training in France with the MMA Factory, but she is obviously Russian by heritage and by birth, St. Petersburg, I think. And then further on down, you have Nora Cornole, and you have... That's it. I think Cornole's French. Am I mistaken on Cornole's ethnicity? Or nationality, I should say. Nope, she is French. Okay, I was right. Having to look around the box, it's a little bit of a pain. Anyways, let's talk about Money Moicano versus Benoit Saint Denis, the main event fight here. I know how this fight is going to start. I have a really, really strong feel of how this is going to go because Moicano, slow starter, has to work his way into fights, almost always has at least kind of a miniature comeback in the fights. Benoit Saint Denis starts like a house on fire, absolute physical force, brings the punishment, brings the pressure, brings the fight to you, brings the power to you, brings the violence and the chaos to you. So presumably, unless we see an overcorrection from the Dustin Poirier loss, he is going to go out there and he's going to try to absolutely decapitate Money Moicano either via submissions or via his punches. He is going to bring the fight to Moicano and almost certainly going to hurt him at some point in the very, very early going of this fight. That's just how Moicano goes. That's how Saint Denis goes. The question is, where does it go from there? Option A is, Benoit Saint Denis just finishes him. He hurts Moicano bad enough, similar to what Jalen Turner did, except instead of doing Jalen Turner, he didn't try to do the walk-off KO. He just keeps going and puts him 6 feet under the octagon, basically. So that's option A. Option B is Benoit Saint Denis just can't finish him. He tries. There's effort. There's absolutely trying to make things happen. But then what happens to Benoit Saint Denis when fights go deeper starts to happen. The fact that he has no real defense, the fact that he doesn't maintain range, the fact that he has no idea how to fight a fight other than just to overpower and bully people, which is the big concern with him up at the top 15, top 20 even of the weight class, is that that's just not going to work. And Moicano survives, comes out the other side of it, starts working his game, starts finding his jab range, starts finding his own takedowns because Benoit Saint Denis is actually quite easy to take down. And Moicano, being the stud grappler that he is able to at some point take his back and probably rear naked choke him. That is option B. That is how Moicano wins this fight. Option C is kind of like I said, with Moicano overcorrecting from the Poirier loss, and we just end up with this sort of very gun-shy, sort of passive performance. We've seen it with other fighters before. They lose, and they're disturbed by that. They're perturbed by that. And with Benoit Saint Denis, we have seen him lose. We saw him lose to Elijah Zaleski. But the Zaleski fight was kind of weird in the sense that, number one, everyone was talking about how insanely durable Benoit Saint Denis is. That brought his stock up. It was a late notice fight. It was a UFC debut. It was a weight class up. There were all these like caveats that he could blame the fight on. Whereas with Poirier, it's just you went up the ladder to about the highest point you're probably ever going to get to, and you lost. How do you react to that? How does that play with your psyche? Does that break the bully confidence? Does that do some things that make you reevaluate what you're doing? And like I said, become kind of dull. I'm going to go with option A. Moicano is a mentally resilient and physically resilient fighter, but he does melt. He is prone to being overpowered. And like I said, the Jalen Turner fight kind of comes to mind as a really good example of this. Like Turner had him dead to rights and just didn't finish. Benoit Saint Denis, he can do that. I hate to say it because I do want to. I love the Moicano promos, even though he's a politically incoherent person. And I've always said it. I don't like fighters' politics. I don't want to know them. I don't want to know them because they're almost always horrifying. But I have enjoyed the Moicano, Money Moicano, like, vibe, post-fight press conference and so on. But I do think Benoit Saint Denis is going to win this fight. I think that there's just too much of an opening at the beginning of the fight where Moicano has to kind of feel his way into the fight, has to kind of find himself. And Saint Denis, unless we get option C, unless we get this gun-shy version of him, should go out there and storm the castle. This is not the time to get tactical, capital T tactical for Benoit Saint Denis. It's just not. And I'm expecting his coaches to insist that he don't do that. So I have Saint Denis by TKO. He is a minus 275 to minus 290 favorite. Moicano plus 210 to plus 235. That feels about right. Then we have a co-main event in the middleweight division, Nassourdine Imavov versus Brendan Allen. I really didn't think either man would make it this far. Like, I really didn't. It's mind-boggling. When they came in, I'm like, Imavov is this really outside or all the way inside fighter that has a very bad mid-game. What I mean by that is that his pocket striking is not great. His entries into takedowns is not great. He's kind of relying on making you feel uncomfortable at range, coming inside and then getting mobbed in the clinch. And I thought it would go far. Don't get me wrong, because he's 6'3". He's a monster for the division, 75-inch reach, but and very strong, powerful, etc. Has the physical requirements. But I didn't trust his gym to make a lot of changes and really capitalize on what he's got, because this is the gym that produced Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane, and everyone below that in terms of weight class has been severely limited by whatever they start out as. They just don't get better. They don't improve. They don't take the next steps that you want to see done. And that's been the frustration with like Cyril Gane, for example, for like a really long time. And to a degree, that is the frustration with Imavov. It's just, I underestimated how middleweight is, how middleweight can be, because what Imavov's got apparently is good enough to beat probably anyone that's not a champion. Like that's just what it is. It's not that he's like necessarily better than I thought he was. It's just that it's gone way higher. It's confusing. It's stunning. A guy who also I think has like some significant cardio issues too. Like he tends to fade a little bit and give opportunities. So there you go. And then with Brendan Allen, you had the grappler. He was the grappler archetype who was not a good striker and was not a good wrestler. And that usually doesn't go very far unless you can be like, I don't know, who's Amar Paul Harris or someone with like highly aggressive, like, I can't even really think about it, but because everyone I'm thinking of is like guys like Imanari who like have become legends and have gone really, really far, but like it's not because they won belts. And that was kind of what I thought with Brendan Allen. And now Brendan Allen has improved. His striking has gotten better. There's a potency to his offense that was not there before. His wrestling has really not. That is the concern. And his defensive striking is still pretty bad. So the question is here, both these guys lost to Sean Strickland, and I think honestly could probably just do Sean Strickland's game plan against the other one, which was the same, because of course Sean Strickland's game plan is one size fits all, and just kind of do it to the other one. The thing is, I don't trust Imavov to take the front foot, and I don't trust Allen to do it well. Allen's striking success has always been about like being the longer guy or being or fighting somebody who's just like inherently a grappler, like a Paul Craig or something, where like you're you're not threatened back. You have somebody else who's like a blank canvas for you to work with. And Imavov, for all his faults, has defensive striking. He has the fundamental defensive work that allowed him to beat, like, for example, Jared Cannonier, who, for middleweight is a good striker. So I'm going to go with Imavov. I have a hard time thinking about somebody. I have a hard time envisioning Allen winning a fight where he can't out-wrestle somebody. And he doesn't have that safety valve of just being like longer than the opponent. He's 6'2", 75-inch reach. He's used to being the longer guy. And he's got the same reach as Imavov, but Imavov is taller and a more capable range striker. So I've got to go with Imavov, but like a Brendan Allen win wouldn't shock me because, I mean, how to beat Imavov is on the table. It's like good pressure work, good activity, make him tired. And Allen has the cardio to do that. It's just like there's something missing, and it's called technique. it's called technique, and it's called like defensive striking ability. Anyways, Imavov by decision. He's the favorite at -205 to -230. Allen +170 to +184. It'll be interesting, but it may also be bad. Willem Gomes versus Joe Anderson Brito. Okay, this was Brito all the way. All the way. It's a fun fight because Brito is a fun fighter inherently. I don't think you can make this guy boring. Jonathan Pierce tried and it didn't work. The problem with Willem Gomes is he kind of has Imavov's game in the sense that he is a predominant kicker, does not have a good boxing game at all, likes to fight at range, and when he comes in close, like he's really athletic. So he's a guy that is like, it is really, really difficult to get anything going against him because of his speed, his power, his size, 6 feet tall, 73 inches. Like, put it in comparison here. This is a 145-pound fight. We just talked about a 185-pound fight with guys who are long for the weight class. They have 75-inch reach. He has 73-inch reach. It's kind of insane. But Brito is a 5'8" dude with a 72-inch reach. He is going to storm the castle. He is incredibly physical. He is a hard hitter. He is durable. He is tough. He is scrappy. He essentially has, like, he has his own flaws, but like his flaws are like over aggression and activity, whereas Gomez's flaws are like lack of aggression and inactivity, if you know what I mean. And it's worked for Gomes so far. I mean, he got a finish against Yanis Gamori. Gamori, not very good. And to be clear, that fight was not exactly one-sided before the finish. And then, split decisions or majority decisions, I forget which, with like Francis Marshall and with Yarno Aarons, who were themselves very, very flawed fighters. It's just, this is as high as you get, Mr. Gomes. There is a great deal of amount of potential in you. There is the athletic ability to be very, very good. You are still only 27 years old. You are still a huge featherweight, but there's a wake-up call that has to happen at some point. And I'd honestly feel like better if he had like lost to Yarno Aarons or something, because it might have triggered like development and figuring out stuff and working on a jab or any kind of boxing ideas to actually make things happen. Like, that's the problem. Odds. I got Brito by submission just because Gomes does tend to give up his neck and stuff, and Brito does have like a really willing ability to attack the neck, particularly with guillotine chokes. So like, I don't think it'll be like him out grappling Gomes necessarily, but it'll be like him hurting Gomes enough, and then like, locking on the choke, rock him, choke him. There's a better word for that. Man, there's a phrase for that, and I'm not remembering it. Brito is a -275 to -310 favorite. Gomes +210 to +245. Then we have Kevin Jousset versus Brian Battle at 170. This one I was thinking about pretty closely. I think Kevin Jousset has the better upside. Like, honestly, he's got a better camp. Obviously, City Kickboxing. They are putting in a pretty solid technical game for him to work with and everything. The problem for him, the question for him, is that things are still very, very stiff. He's He's a judo guy who's learned how to kickbox from some of the best kickboxing coaches in the world, and it's put together a phenomenally good technical game. But like, it's not natural. It doesn't flow. It's not fluid. It doesn't respond to chaos very well. And the UFC has done him some favors by giving him some matchmaking that doesn't emphasize that enough. But Battle does do that. The question with Battle, though, is that sometimes he's willing to just kind of like accept an outside kickboxing match because his game is kind of built around the idea that he is scrappier than you and like, okay, we'll do what you want to do and I'll still beat you. I'll still be that dog in the fight that like you're just not ready to deal with. And if he just kind of stays to the outside, tries to emphasize his 77-inch reach again, which is something he can usually do to people, it could be a Juice win on like just a low output, slowly taking the fight away from him, like kickboxing Battle. You're gonna hear a crack. There you go. Like that could happen. That could happen. But like also there's the opportunity for Battle to just make this kind of messy. Get to the inside, pressure him, utilize the pocket where Juice is not technically ill-suited to, but like not comfortable, not confident, not flowing through. And at some point, like just, make it messy, make it chaotic, take advantage of the fact that you are the scrappier fighter. Like, like I just said, he knows he's scrappy. He's going to do it. He's more naturally comfortable as a striker. It's insane. So I've got Battle by decision. There's just a couple of ways for him to win. There are ways for Juice to win. He could implement a heavy wrestling game on Battle. Battle can be taken down. It happens a lot. Even guys like Gilbert Urbina and Trayshawn Gore have been able to take him down. So that is on the table. Juice could put him on his back and like utilize that. Be the judo guy. Take the lessons of Rinat Fakhretdinov and deal with the fact that Battle is way too willing to play guard. But I don't know if Juice has the intros to that. And I don't know if he has a way of like putting a clinch game onto somebody that avoids it. But I guess the other concern would be that Battle doesn't necessarily avoid anything. So maybe Battle just like gives in and gives him the clinch, and that ends up being a problem. But it's not something I've really seen Juice do up until this point. I think he's trying to make a conscious effort to be a kickboxer, and I don't think that is going to be the path to victory against Bryan Battle. It would not surprise me. Again, Battle is not a reliable decision maker, so there is that problem. But Battle by decision. Battle is the favorite, minus 160 to minus 180. Juice plus 135 to plus 145. Down to Morgan Charrier versus Gabriel Miranda. I am taking Charrier pretty easily, honestly. Miranda is just not very good. He is an aggressive sub-hunting grappler who's beaten a lot of cans on his Tapology. And he's not honestly a UFC caliber fighter. He can go out there and be like a guy who is going to like, pressure people and make it like I like him as like a young guy tester. And like in a way that could be the case here for Charrier, who's 28 years old and like has a serious pace, inactivity, ability to lose split decisions, majority decisions just against people that are worse than him just by being passive. And Miranda will like, force a fight on him. But I don't see how Miranda wins. He's not a long-term control guy. Charrier's not a guy you submit very easily. And Charrier hits really, really hard. And Miranda's very, very hittable. So I'm going with Charrier by TKO. He is too big of a favorite, in my opinion, just because of his history of like losing close fights against people he should beat, like Miranda. And they have him at minus 649 to minus 570. Miranda at plus 450 to plus 500. I am tempted to lay some money down on Miranda. Fares Ziam versus Matt Frevola, lightweight fight. I can never shake this idea that Ziam is just very, very breakable. Like, I cannot point to a fight where it's happened. Losing to Terrence McKinney by TKO early is not a problem. Losing a decision to Don Madge is not breaking. It's concerning, but it's not breaking. But there's something there that I cannot, in my brain, discard to the waste paper basket of bad ideas. And I'm a big fan of Frivola. There are limitations to him. He's knockoutable. He's clockable. He has bad defensive striking, like in a nutshell. But like he's a good wrestler, aggressive, throws mean intention hands. And if a guy like Claudio Puelles could take you down 7 times, Jamie Malarkey could take you down 5 times, which happens with Faris Ziam. I assume Frivola's aggression will be enough to like put Ziam on his back. Like Ziam is a bad defensive wrestler. And like it's worse because he's 6'1", 175 in reach at lightweight. You can get away with being a bad wrestler at that form, but like he's kind of like Nassourdine Imavov in the sense that this is kind of a recurring thing across the card, in the sense that he does embrace like clinch wrestling. Like there's no part of his game that doesn't throw itself into wrestling when things get in close, because he's very uncomfortable at mid-range striking. So as a result, he gives you the opportunities to wrestle him while being bad at defending wrestling. And I assume he'll do that with Frivola. I assume Frivola will want to take him down, having been knocked out by Terrence McKinney, Marco Polo Reyes. But hopefully he'll just go out there, and Benoit Saint Denis. Hopefully he goes out there, just emphasizes his wrestling and his grappling game, and takes down Ziam over and over and over again, and does his thing, and comes out with a decision victory. He is an underdog at plus 105 to plus 110. Ziam minus 125 to minus 138. I get that. Ziam has had a very, very good run in the UFC. Like, despite my constant inability to shake my misgivings about him, I have to admit that he has done the deed and done good work. So there is that. But at the same time, I do think that this is a toxic matchup for him, frankly. Ion Kudalaba versus Ivan Urslan. I don't know why Urslan is here. I get that he's exciting. He had a 7-fight run in KSW going 4-3. He's physical, he's got power, and so on. But like, he's in his 30s. Like, it feels like at 32 years old, this is not like the type of guy you invest in. But hey, he'll be fun, he'll be exciting, he'll do his thing, and this fight is going to be incredibly aggressive and incredibly exciting because Ion Kudalaba is going to bring it right off the bat. Urslan is going to bring it right off the bat. They both like to get first round finishes. It's kind of like their life's mission as fighters. And I assume it'll happen there, but like, I just can't buy into Urslan's like very, very structuralist defensive style. Like, I guess you could argue that Kudalaba is as well, but Kudalaba, I think, is like the higher level athlete. So it's like Urslan is fighting a guy who is probably a better athlete than him, has a wrestling game, has power, has aggressive striking, has bad defense. Don't get me wrong. Like, there is every chance in the world that Urslan just deads him, because Kudalaba can be deaded. Kudalaba is wide open to get hit on the counter and so on. Like, he's reckless, but they're both reckless. I'm going to take the guy who's proven to be recklessly successful in the UFC, and that is Ion Kudalaba. So, Ion Kudalaba by TKO. Can I pick first round stoppage? Like, that probably will just be my bet. They're about even money odds here. Urslan minus 105 to minus 120. Kudalaba plus 100 to plus 120. I guess that makes Urslan the favorite, but like, not really. I'm going with Kudalaba. Just there's no one on Urslan's record that screams UFC caliber finish, and there are people on Kudalaba's. That's it. Omar Sy versus Dawoon Jung. I am going with Omar Sy. I have worries about Omar Sy, but like, he is huge. 6'4", 83-inch reach. He's insanely big and very athletic, very nimble for his size, explosive, strong, powerful, all that stuff. I do worry that he's a little bit willing to just play like a control game, which I can't really think of many like recent 205ers that is actually like worked for. So like, I do think that there is going to have to be some things he adds. And he's up against Dawoon Jung, who's a good finisher, a pretty reasonable counter wrestler, to be honest. And, pretty big as well, 6'4", 78.5-inch reach. But like, Omar Sy does feel like that high-end prospect in a way that, for example, like Urslan, who we just talked about, doesn't, and that Jung doesn't. So, super athletic Omar Sy by decision. Jung will test him in ways that he has not been tested before, but I do expect him to clear those hurdles. C is a minus 549 to minus 650 favorite. Jung plus 390 to plus 450. Probably too wide, honestly, for a guy who's as unproven as Omar Sy, but I get it. He's a hyped prospect. Ludovic Klein versus Roosevelt Roberts. Now, this is the widest line on the card. I don't know why. Klein is a minus 650 to minus 1250 favorite. 950 to 1250. Roberts plus 600 to plus 710. I am picking Klein. I want to make that clear. I'll probably never pick Roberts. But like, there is a 5'7" versus 6'2" dynamic we gotta talk about here. Like, we have to take a minute to realize that there is a massive size disadvantage for Ludovic Klein, even though he has gone 5-0-1 at lightweight in the UFC. He's a creative striker. I like him a lot. He's a pretty good decision maker. He has overexceeded my expectations in a big way. He can wrestle pretty well. He's actually really, really difficult to take down. Roosevelt Roberts is an offensively potent fighter who is bad defensively, both on the ground and on the feet. He's very hittable, and he's very submittable. I don't think Klein will take advantage of the submittable part, but Klein should take advantage of the hitting part and find a TKO at some point here in an awkward fight, because 7 inches of height difference is just wow. You don't see that every day. Like, maybe at heavyweight, but you do not see that every day. But to be betting at Klein at minus 4-figure odds, you're crazy. You're crazy. Anybody's crazy. Anyway, that's not even a Ludovic Klein insult. That's like anyone's crazy. But there you go. Klein by TKO is the pick. I'm just saying those odds are insane. Taylor Lapilus versus Vince Morales. I do want to say welcome back to the UFC, Vince Morales. He went 3-5 back in like 2020 to 2022, going, winning over, some reasonable fighters like Louis Smolka and Ayman Zahabi, who is surging, and losing to nothing but pretty good fighters. We're talking Yidong Song, Benito Lopez, Chris Gutierrez, Jonathan Martinez, Miles Johns. I think outside of Miles Johns, we didn't really appreciate how good they were at the time they beat Vince Morales. But now that you look back at it, that looks very, very, very good. He is a pocket boxer with good combinations, decent pop. He's supposed to be a wrestler, but I've never really seen it. He has 1 takedown in 8 UFC fights. It's kind of weird. It's strange. It's bizarre. I welcome him back, but I do think that there is a serious ceiling here, and that they have just thrown him into a fight to lose, basically. Because if you remember, I said that he lost to Chris Gutierrez and Jonathan Martinez, who are big, heavy kicking neutralizers. Guess what Taylor Lapilus is? A heavy kicking neutralizer. Which is weird because he's 5'6" at 135. And that's short even at 135. But he's developed this game that is really, really good. He's got quick feet. He's got quick hands. He's evasive. He's hard to lock down. He's hard to cut the cage off on. And he will just keep peppering you and doing your thing. And when you do get to do your thing, be that pocket fighting or clinching him against the cage or trying to take him down or whatever, he's still very, very hard to do anything with in those situations. So Lapilus by decision, it just feels like better athlete, quicker guy, and a style that is already proven to have success against Morales. Is really hard for me to pick Morales coming back to the UFC. So Lapilus minus 330 to minus 385. Morales plus 260 to plus 290. I do have it going the distance in favor of Lapilus. Eileen Perez versus Daria Zhelezhnikova. I am going to take 1 second here. I need to add a little bit of space on my notepad. There you go. That way I can actually see it when I roll it up to the top. Anyways, Eileen Perez versus Daria Zhelezhnikova. I gotta go with Eileen Perez. I don't like her. I find her incredibly cringe on social media and the twerking and all that. And people are like, well, you're just a prude. I'm like, I guess. I just don't get working inherent sexuality into UFC fighters promotability. I don't get it. I don't understand. I'm not a fan. But Perez is really, really strong, really, really durable, really aggressive. And it's an incredibly blunt game. Incredibly blunt. But she will go out there and she will walk into the clinch with you and take you down. And that's what she'll do. And No one has really been able to dissuade her of that except for like Stephanie Egger, I guess, because Stephanie Egger is like, that's kind of her game as well. um, Zheleznikova is probably the better like range kickboxer of the two. She's an MMA Factory girl, but she's never been good at denying the clinch. Never really at all. And this does feel very, very similar to Eileen Perez versus Jocelyn Edwards, which was a fight that Perez was able to do her thing and take down Perez or Edwards quite a few times. And Edwards, I think, was a better athlete and a better grappler than Zheleznikova is. So, yeah, it feels like treading water. I'm not really sure what the matchmaking here was. But anyways, Eileen Perez minus 225 to minus 275. Zheleznikova plus 175 to plus 210. I do see it going the distance because Zheleznikova is a tough, durable, mentally and physical fighter. And Perez is not really a finisher. Like, she has the raw power to do it. It's just like nothing she does is a surprise at any point. So there is that problem. Flyweight action, Daniel Baez versus Victor Altamirano. This is like the last fight, and to a degree the next fight, is a fight that I don't really like the matchmaking of. It's not that it'll be boring. Baez will come out and try to bully Altamirano and try to do his thing. He will try to wrestle him. He'll try to hit him hard. He'll try to submit him. He'll try to do all those things. And Altamirano will probably survive them, similar to how Carlos Hernandez did, and win a decision. Altamirano is used to being bullied, and he responds to it pretty well. He will make you work, and he will make you get tired, and he will be there when you're falling apart, when your bully game has failed to work. Victor Altamirano is still there staring at you and saying, "What else you got?" And that is the problem for Baez. So Altamirano winning, he's minus 125 to minus 135. Baez plus 100 to plus 110. It wouldn't surprise me to go the other way. Baez is a pretty, solid finisher and whatever. But like, what I don't like about this fight is that you have a 35-year-old against a 33-year-old, both of whom are not going anywhere in this division and are not like long time, like, all right, let them fight. Like kind of the upcoming fight between Tim Means and Court McGee, where it's like two veterans kind of at the end of their rope. Let him go out there, let him bang, let him have one last good show. This is not that. Baez has no wins in the UFC, and Altamirano is not inherently an action fighter. So I don't like it. I feel like they're both like excellent versions of like testing young people. Like Baez is a good test for younger versions of himself, and Altamirano can be as well. So I don't really know why they made this fight. Anyways, Altamirano decision minus 125 to minus 135. Baez plus 100 to plus 110. And then this one I also don't really like because it is a rematch of a fight that happened in 2021 between Nora Cornole and Jacqueline Cavalcanti. And the problem with this is that Cavalcanti won that fight. She's the younger fighter by 7 years and the more up-and-comer. You generally don't do this type of rematch because there's usually nothing really to say. It's not that I hate the fight. It's going to be fine. They're both 4 women's 135 good strikers, fight at a reasonably high pace and do their thing. But like, it's Cavalcanti won this fight while being more green. She's gotten more experienced. She's developed, I think, a better game. Whereas Cornole is kind of just the same fighter, like 34 years old. She's a bit stronger, a bit more powerful than Cavalcanti, but she's shorter, less reach, therefore less able to compete on the outside with her. Doesn't really have a wrestling game to speak of. In fact, her wrestling game is to get taken down and then like sweep people. And like one would think Cavalcanti just won't do that. There are some things that she can maybe do. Cavalcanti got caught against the cage a couple of times by the freakishly short Josiane Nunes. But I think Nunes is a way more functionally front foot fighter than Cornole is. Cornole functions at her best when the opponent has to come to her, and it allows her to use her clinch striking and, as stated, her ability to scramble when it's on the ground. Whereas Cavalcanti just doesn't have to do that. She's 3 inches longer, 1 inch taller, and fundamentally does not mind fighting on the outside. So she also fights at a much higher pace. So I'm going to go with Cavalcanti by decision. I don't think this proves much, but hey, it'll be fun. I just think that there are better things to do. Like, honestly, here's an idea. How about Zheleznikova versus Cornole and Cavalcanti versus Perez? Just like kind of reverse the opponents. and you probably have something better. Opening up the odds. Cavalcanti is the favorite at minus 205 to minus 230. Cornoli plus 170 to plus 180. Anyways, we go to Balaji Oki versus Chris Duncan. And this is just an athletic pick. The go with Duncan is the superior athlete by decision. I like the game that Duncan's put together way better. Duncan is making the most of his lackluster physical gifts. He is aggressive, hardworking, fights at a high pace, will adapt, will do things. He will take opportunities. You give him something. You give him something that like constantly works. He's just going to do it. Like the Omar Morales fight is like a great example of that. But Oki is the faster guy, a pretty good technician in his own right. I just don't really buy into the hype train on him. Like there's a little bit of a hype train from like certain corners of the MMA social media. He's 28 years old. Maybe he'll still surprise me, but like I don't know. I just think that he was fundamentally a bigger guy on the on the regional scene with like good athletic tools, and that in the UFC he's going to run into guys who have similar athletic tools to him and similar size. This one has similar size but not similar athleticism. So that's kind of it. Oki by decision to be the faster, harder hitter guy. Duncan, however, to take him to deep water, and like we'll see some things out of him that maybe will be insightful. Oki is a minus 180 to minus 200 favorite. Duncan is plus 170 to plus 160. And to that end, that is all. Check out the links down below. There will be a link tree to my social medias, my MMA fighting Discord, as with the Fight Simulator, plus all the video game stuff I do, if you enjoyed my voice and presentation. So until next time, aka Sunday, I will see you later.